Hey folks, welcome to the channel today. It's been a couple of weeks since I've posted my last video, but well, today I'm back and I appreciate each one of you guys that are tuning in for this episode. And it's going to be a short one today, but I got a couple of things that I want to bring to your attention and maybe generate some thoughts, and you could put them in the comment section below the video. And today we're talking a little bit about retirement. We've talked about retirement a number of times here on the channel over the past 8, 9, 10 months. But here are a couple of things that I've read recently that a lot of people are starting to think are not necessarily viable or important. So we're going to talk about it today. And if this is your first time here at the channel, my name is Chris. I'm your host. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in, and if this is your again, if this is your first time here at the channel, we've got some other videos that I think that you might be able to find some good information on if you want to go back and look at those after you watch this video. Feel free to like and subscribe. It certainly helps the channel out, and so let's get right into it. So three big things that over decades, really, just absolute decades of time in economic and finance world that have been kind of a mainstay for retirement and for people that were thinking of retirement have seemingly kind of fallen by the wayside over about the last 2 or 3 years. Maybe a little longer, depends on where you live and that sort of thing. But the first thing that has kind of fallen by the wayside is the quote-unquote 4% rule. And you probably already know about that, but let's just, for the sake of discussion, say that you don't. And let's talk about that for just a moment. So what is the 4% rule? In a nutshell, it basically means that when you get into retirement, whatever assets that you have saved up, that you have investments in, that sort of thing, whether it's stocks or bonds or whatever, that as long as you did not overdraw, in other words, as long as you did not withdraw more than 4% of your assets at any one time, meaning any one year, I should say, that your assets should not just be depleted, but yeah, you would use up to 4% of that, but it wouldn't go to the point where you would necessarily lose your amounts of assets. In other words, your investable income before you were to pass away. That's kind of it in a nutshell. A lot of people felt that, hey, if I've got a pension, which we don't see many of those these days, but if you worked for a company and had a pension from that company, as whatever you needed to live on day to day and month to month throughout the year, as long as you didn't withdraw an additional 4% of your investable assets, then you would be fine to get through retirement and perhaps leave a nest egg for your heirs at the time that you passed away. So a lot of people have gotten, over the past few years, like I say, they just don't believe in it, they don't trust in it, they don't necessarily think it has anything to do with them and their retirement and their investment style. Okay, so that's number one, and that's, for a lot of people, that's been kind of hard to get rid of, but as the younger generations come along these last few years, it's not been a real problem. So people just don't necessarily believe it any longer. So point number two, the percentage of your investments that should be in stocks. Now, by that I mean the rule of thumb that if you wanted to know how much you should put into stocks versus bonds, now whether that be a fund or whether that be individual stocks, company stocks or company bonds, you would simply take 100 and you would subtract your age from that 100, and that would give you in percentages how much you should keep in stocks versus bonds. For example, I mean, if you had a person that was 40 years old and they wanted to have a certain portion of their investments in stocks or stock funds or index funds of that sort of thing, they would simply subtract their age of 40 from 100, come up with 60, which in this case would represent 60%. And then that would be the approximate amount or the amount that they should have in stocks, either stock mutual funds, stock index funds, individual stocks from companies, and that would be 60%. The other 40% obviously would be placed into bonds or bond equivalents. Do people really follow that anymore? Not really. A lot of people they've gone to one extreme to the other. They went from, let's say again, in that example I just gave, from being a 60-40 stock to bond investor, they've gone, in many instances, they've gone to nearly 100% stocks and 0 bonds. There is a belief that you have to be all in stocks in order to get the type of funds that you want to have for retirement. Many people are doing this. They're not using the 100 minus your age formula any longer. And that's not just for one simple reason, but for many reasons, right? Some people just think it was never a good idea. A lot of other folks said, that's kind of, just a fluke. Not something that I think is necessarily going to always work out, so why should I be involved? Others felt that because of their inability to save when they were in younger years, I should say, or another way to say that is they just didn't really begin saving for retirement until older age. And in this instance, older I mean by like 30s or 40s or maybe even early 50s. That they have to be 100% stocks in order to get the gains they need to be able to support themselves and or their spouse or family members after they retire. Which is interesting because a lot of people feel that, well, okay, am I going to retire? We've just discussed how the 4% really isn't relevant to most folks anymore. The 100 minus your age formula doesn't necessarily make sense anymore. And the other thing is, or the third bullet I wanted to bring to your attention is that a lot of people just don't feel that they have a particular number. Now, and by that I mean a number where they can say, well, I've reached $500,000 and I'm ready to retire, or 1 million or 5 million or 10 million. And there are reasons for that. And in some instances, people believe that in order to come up with that number that they have to come up with a budget. In other words, a budget to live on. They have to budget the money for their bills and for food and utilities and car payments and gasoline for those cars. Things of that nature. And so rather than go through that heartache of coming up with a budget that you may or may not ever reach or be able to maintain month to month, they feel, well, I'm just not going to make a budget, and why should I come up with a magic number? And that kind of leads to another point, and it's not really a fourth point per se, but it's kind of the fallout of point number 3, and that is, can you afford to retire? Here in the United States, a lot of people have come to the belief that they can't retire. They'll never be able to retire. It doesn't matter if they're 50 or 60 or 90, that they will never be able to retire because things are, for them, just so expensive. Things that they not just desire, things that are fun and nice to have items. They can't afford the basics. They can't afford the medicines that they need. They can't afford the food to put on the table. They can't afford the gas to put in the car to go to their job. That in many instances they don't like anyway, and they don't get real benefit from it. They get a paycheck, that may or may not get them to paycheck to the next paycheck to the next paycheck after that. And because of that, they don't think that they'll ever retire. You know, back in my days in the military, that was one of those things that sort of went along with our saying of, you know, if you do that, you'll become a self-licking ice cream cone. And by that I mean, if you want to equate it in a different manner, it's like the old saying, if you believe it, it'll happen. So if you believe you'll never amount to anything, then you won't. If you believe you'll never retire, then you won't. If you believe that you'll never have anything nice to give to your family or to indulge yourself even, for that matter, then you won't. I'm not saying that everything is going to be, you know, rose-colored glasses and everything will be peachy keen and great and all that. I'm not saying that at all, because in some instances there's just nothing you can do to make it that way. But what I am saying is, if you truly believe that you'll never have anything or can never retire, then you won't. But if you believe that you can, and you are willing to do the work to make that happen, you will. And you'll have a great retirement. Now, I'm not going to say that you're going to be, you know, Elon Musk rich, happy in retirement. Wouldn't everybody love that, right? But I am saying that you can have a retirement where you're comfortable, you have the food that you want, the medicine that you need. As we get older and our bodies require certain types of medicine. You'll have the relationships that you desire, both, you know, romantically as well as familial. And those are what really make things important for the majority of people. It's not the things and the stuff and the cars and the houses and the boats and all that kind of thing. Those are nice to have things, but they're not necessarily going to make your life that much happier. I've mentioned in the past on other videos that the average person is most happy when their job pays them about $75,000 a year. That gets them the food they need, the medicine that they need, the health care, stuff that they need just to live a good, comfortable life. So the whole point of this video is to let you know that there are things that are not necessarily true, maybe never were. Maybe the 4% rule never was really that big of a deal to begin with. Honestly, if you're relying on formulas and things of that nature, you're probably not going to have as great of an opportunity to get what you want and do what you want with your life. So I'm going to close this video out by saying, do your research, set aside some time to talk with someone, maybe a financial planner, or find someone that deals with finances, maybe even a college professor or a local economics teacher at your child's high school or middle school or something. Those people are generally just about as knowledgeable as anybody that you could talk to about retirement and finances. And I'm sure that if there was the opportunity to talk about that, many of them would be glad to help out if they could. So until the next time, I hope that you will like and subscribe to the video. Go back and look at some of the other ones. Again, it really helps the channel out. I appreciate each and every one of you. I wish you the best. Make comments in the comment section and let's talk about this, because I think that there's a lot that we can do for one another. And it doesn't have to mean that we do anything except talk about options or opportunities and things of that nature. So until the next time, I wish you guys the best of luck. I hope you have a great rest of your day, night, or evening, as the case may be, whenever you're watching this video. And I hope to be back with you again soon. So take care and have a good one. Bye now.